I'm not going to start with any easy questions.
What would you do if you couldn't fail?
I was vulnerable in the sense of I was just who I was.
The cold exposure conditions the inside of our body to literally adapt.
Whatever happens in the gut happens in the brain, and whatever happens in the brain happens in the gut.
Finding the grace and the humor.
Anti-aging is associated with at least an hour of deep sleep nightly.
Absolutely had mentors, absolutely 100% had coaches.
90+% of the decisions that we make today actually stem from fear.
Allow ourselves to have imperfection.
Nothing starts without a plan, nothing ever goes to plan.
Chaga is actually the most antioxidant-rich food on the planet.
If we can bring a practice into our lives that helps us be more vulnerable, I'm so thrilled that this content is getting out there, that you guys are promoting bold and vulnerable message and aspirations for people, because I hope that we can all really live that every day.
Hey, this is Jessica.
And Svetlana, and you're listening to the Bold and Vulnerable podcast,
where we aim to inspire others to live authentically through sharing the bold and vulnerable stories of peak performers across a variety of industries. Hey guys, it's Jessica here, and you know I love my coffee. We have recently partnered with a company called La Repubblica Coffee. They are completely fair trade, they're non-GMO and all vegan, which you guys know I'm vegan, so I'm totally a fan. But the cool thing is that this is a mushroom coffee company. You know, sometimes people feel stuck in their coffee routine. They feel like they can't live with it, they can't live without it. Maybe coffee makes them feel overwhelmed. This coffee completely makes you feel so zen. It gives you a peace of mind and well-being and a clean energy jolt. You don't have any jitters that you get with coffee because the cordyceps really help to regulate the intake of caffeine from the coffee. It's a rich source of vitamin D, E, and many other things that help your immune function and optimal health. It's a perfect way to incorporate high beneficial superfoods into your morning routine. I love to start my morning with just a smooth cup.
This morning, I was so freaking excited because I ordered my bulk order. I'm telling you, George and I were literally waiting by the door yesterday. I'm not joking. And finally they came at like 7 and we were so excited, and George and I were like, should we drink this now?
Yeah, listeners, you guys are going to be so excited because you get 15% off all of your orders by using the code vulnerable, all caps 15. So vulnerable 15, all caps.
We only partner with companies that we believe in here at Bold and Vulnerable because we really value honesty and just being truthful to our audience. Being a working mom and entrepreneur, you really want to have all the hacks possible at your fingertips. So I'm so freaking excited to be partnering with this company.
Everyone that I've talked to who's tried it has been raving about how delicious it is, and we drink it during our podcast episodes, and just to give us a jolt of energy. It has 7 superfood mushrooms, so not only do you get the benefits and energy of your cordyceps, but you also get the healthy benefits of lion's mane that gives you so much focus and immunity support. You also get this really nutrient-rich product that elevates your focus and also elevates your gut. So it's almost like using a smart blend of quality chaga, reishi, shiitake, turkey tail, and your immune system just gets this daily boost of energy. And it also helps to alkalize the effects of coffee's natural acidities.
Yeah, definitely. And what I really love about it is that they have a gold standard for their manufacturing, which I think is really important, which tells us that they have high standards, obviously, as do we here at Bold and Vulnerable. The benefits that you're receiving in 1 cup of coffee are just outstanding.
It's kind of like an anti-inflammatory for your body, which is absolutely amazing. And not only that, it has a wonderful taste. So I think that's everything that people are looking for. Even people that don't drink coffee, I think will probably enjoy the taste of La Repubblica coffee.
We have a discount code for you. It is all caps vulnerable 15.
Head over to larepublicasuperfoods.com and type in vulnerable 15. When you check out, you will receive a 15% discount on all of La Repubblica's mushroom coffee.
Get yourself an amazing adaptogenic cup of coffee.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Bold and Vulnerable podcast. We did 2 sessions with Serah, and you guys are going to be pumped with all the content. Please enjoy session 1.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm so excited for today's show. I've got Jess on the line, and we have our wonderful, amazing Jess, Serah, on today. And Serah is a conscious lifestylist expert and relationship expert and all things spiritual, business, consciousness, and expanding your life and reprogramming your subconscious mind to create better patterns and to create the lifestyle that is that you want. Serah, I hope that I just kind of gave the audience what it is that you do in like a short 2 seconds. I read your bio and I've been following you for a while on Instagram, and I like join in on your soul circle lives sometimes, and I watch you with your cards talking to people. So I'm going to let you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you do.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm really excited to connect with you ladies and your whole community. So hi, hello, what's up? Yeah, that was a great intro. Thank you. And yes, I call myself the Conscious Lifestylist. I am a conscious love and business mentor. The way I love teaching, what I'm really, passionate about, is teaching those really tangible, practical, transformational tools, like the real how-to that's needed to just, claim your personal power, embody your truest, most authentic, badass, highest version of yourself in love and in business and leadership. So that's my mission. That's my greatest, highest expression in making an impact in the world. I guess you could say one of my biggest missions is really shifting cultural consciousness and taking our relationships and how we relate to each other to the next level. I often say that I don't really think there's anything wrong with relationships. I think that's kind of the stereotypical thing that we say so that we can almost have something to point the finger on. And I don't think there's anything wrong with relationships, but I think what we could use a lot more of is how we're relating with each other and at what level of love we are relating to each other. And the foundation of that is always going to be our relationship with ourselves and how much we value ourselves and how we're relating to ourselves. That's really going to create that echo in all of our relationships. So yeah, that's the name of the game for me. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I was curious with this, with what it is that you do, how did you come to that conclusion that this is your mission and that this is what you're out to do in the world?
Yeah, great question. So as I feel like many entrepreneurs, you kind of start in one direction and then you go up the hill and then you go underneath something and then you go around and then you go over it. It's not a straight line. It's not a perfect path. I don't think life is a perfect path, And I started as a young actress at 13. And at that time I was living with my grandmother, which, at that time, she was cool to look up to in the sense that she was this beautiful woman and she was a pinup girl in the war, and she was living in California. So my parents were like, hey, if you want to really give this acting thing a shot, you can go out and live with her. And she would take me to auditions. And what started as kind of a really cool granddaughter, grandmother kind of relationship turned into something that I don't think any of us really expected. It just got really unhealthy really quickly. And there was a lot of bitterness that came up from her and a lot of jealousy because she really wanted to be an actress, And so I feel like she was living a little bit vicariously through me. But then as I started gaining more success, I think some of that jealousy came up and she started projecting that onto me. And so her behavior became very toxic and verbally and just emotionally toxic. And it turned into what you would think would be, guidance, turned into almost these drills of I would have lines to go over and she's like, well, you better get it right. You better do it this way. And you better like keep doing it over and over and over again, reading my lines and preparing for an audition. And so it turned into like a boot camp, in a weird way. And that sort of dialogue and that sort of energy would be all the way from, like we lived in Laguna Beach at the time, and it would carry all the way through her driving me all the way up to Los Angeles, and so just that energy in the car. And so it just got to a point where it was like, okay, this really isn't healthy, and being so young, like knowing what I know now, I didn't understand at the time, like the level of impact that was having on my subconscious mind and how I would later start relating to love in all of my relationships, in really like, oh, if this is what love is supposed to look like, as toxic as it is, right? That's how I learned it. And so then I would go and attract other similarly toxic relationships, right? And I also do have to say that it was really, I shifted to a toxic relationship with myself. There was a lot of pain from that I was suppressing. So I got into a really unhealthy dynamic. I was self-sabotaging myself. I was getting into drugs and alcohol. I mean, that was easy to do. It was Hollywood, like partying with top celebrities and all of that stuff. Like it was a glitz and glamour lifestyle that really wasn't glitzy and glamorous, at the root of it. But I didn't know at the time that I was really suppressing just pain and upset. I was suppressing all of my emotions, and I didn't feel anything. I didn't know how to express the emotions that I was feeling, so I would just shove them down and not feel anything. And one of the ways that was an outlet for me was creating characters, right? So it would be that would be safe for me. It would be it would feel better to be somebody else than to be myself, and it was glorified in the sense where I got paid for that. I got paid to be somebody else, and it felt better at the time to be somebody else. And what that meant though was suppressing who I authentically was. I didn't know that at the time, so later and kind of getting reconnected with the truest, most authentic version of me. But I did, and I spent a long time continuing to suppress and escape. And, just kind of like, I felt like, honestly, like I felt like I was cheating on myself. I wasn't paying attention to who I truly was. I wasn't listening to myself. I wasn't connected to, my heart, or listening to my deepest intuition and my deepest feminine. I just really was completely disconnected from that. And, that had a really big impact one night where I almost completely disconnected altogether. I've been very open about talking about, how much I got into drugs and alcohol, and it did almost kill me. Like I almost died doing too much drugs one night, and that's really what kind of shifted and was like a really big wake up call, and really allowed me to kind of just open up and see. It was a really gnarly experience. It was like a whole Kundalini awakening. There was so many different radical things that was happening after that event that just, it's like it opened me up and birthed me into a whole other version of myself that I didn't anticipate, and it was like a true, they say like divine intervention. It was really like, okay, you're going down this path, and like something stops you and is like, here you go, you're going down this way now, but I actually, it was my request, or in that moment when I was so afraid whether I would like make it through the night, like I called out to whatever higher energy, and I was like, all right, I need help, like I need support. I don't know who or what is on that side, but the light side. But I was like, if you help me, like I'll never touch this stuff as long as I live. I will never go back to this type of lifestyle. And I haven't, That's one of the reasons, it's one of the truest essences, I feel like, of living a conscious lifestyle. It's not just the food that you eat and, doing yoga and doing meditation and, understanding your sort of subconscious programming. It is all of those things, but it's really creating that intention for what you want and living a holistic lifestyle. It's mind, body, and spirit, and keeping those all in balance and finding those higher levels of enlightenment through a sovereign path, not through any other substance. If you try certain substances to kind of see what's possible, cool, that's one thing. We've all done that. I've been there, I've done that. I've tried the ayahuasca, I did all that. That was, that was the one exception where it was like, okay, I want to go within and say, I'd like to have this experience with a shaman and do this sort of ayahuasca journey. And I had to really get clear on myself for, making that declaration before of not, of the lifestyle that I declared I would have, and whether that was in alignment with it, and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it once, and that's it. I don't need to go back, and I don't need to do it again. And honestly, what it gave me was things that I kind of already found through my own awareness and shifting patterns and consciousness, but it allowed me to see, I guess, other layers of what was possible. So I think if that's what's wonderful for somebody and that's something they're called to, it's like, cool, do that. And I'm a big supporter on do what you need to do, like once or twice, and then find your sovereign path on your own. That's where your truest power is. It's not through any other things that support that. That's kind of like the training wheels. It's like at some point you got to take the training wheels off, and discover what that looks like on how you're going to ride your bike by yourself. Does that kind of make sense? Did I answer that question?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was listening and just listening.
It's been a journey.
It's deeply listening because I feel like there's so much to unpack here. I feel like I've heard I've heard parts of your story. Cause I've listened to your story on, it was someone's podcast. I think was it Shaman Dirks? I think you were.
It might have been.
Yeah. Cause I think I heard your story.
Love him so much.
I know, he's amazing. I love him too. He's so amazing. I saw him he was in San Francisco in, I think it was October, and George and I picked him up and we were just hanging out with him, and he's
awesome.
He's amazing. But I think it was his podcast actually. And I think you talked about this, but I thought what I find like fascinating actually is, you went from this whole lifestyle of being an actress, being in Hollywood, and you shifted into this like completely different lifestyle, and not even, I feel like you're still probably using a lot of the ways that you may have learned in acting how to like tap in to certain energies, right? Because
absolutely.
I started in acting actually. Like I used to act, and I didn't go into like Hollywood the way you did. There was something in me that kept stopping me. I was like, should I move to LA, blah, blah, blah. But I was just, there was something in me that just, because I was so, I did not have the self-value, the self-worth at the time. And I think intuitively, I sort of knew that something was off. And I felt like if I went down that road, it would just break me. That I was like stopping myself from fully taking the leap. But I would do stuff here in SF, and I would always take classes and stuff. And one of the things that I found that was the most difficult for me was shaking off the character afterwards, especially if it was a difficult
That's so
scene.
huge.
Yeah. I was like, it would just mess with my energy. It actually had me feeling depressed for weeks. And nobody teaches this in acting because you're literally taking on another person's energy. Like you're actually tapping into their energy, and
100%.
you're becoming them, right? Because you're studying them so deeply, their behaviors, their attitude, their food choices, like everything that that they would do, you're studying and you're doing and you're repeating. And I think that's fascinating. I think you've touched on this too. So, like, how was that like for you?
So, and I love that you're bringing up, and it is 100% true, you know, and it's very rarely talked about. I did an interview when I was teaching beginning and advanced acting when I was living in Sedona. The college, Yavapai College out there, had a sister institute, the Sedona Film School, and they wanted me to teach while I was living out there. And I did an interview for them for my class, and I taught this exact thing, because in the interview I was like, actors are taught how to, like, actors are natural channels. You are, right? And everyone has that ability, whether you're an actor or not, right? It's just, yes, there is a version of how you're sort of trained and what you're into as an actor to embody those different characters and those different roles and energies of characters, right? So when I started as an actress, it's like, that is, yes, learning the foundation of psychology, emotional intelligence and mastery. You know, that really is a strong foundation. And those, yes, are absolutely some of the tools that I implement when I'm working with clients today. Going deeper, obviously, into the, you know, subconscious element as well. But in the being able to embody these characters in acting, they teach you how to bring it in, right? How to sort of, let's just use the word channel, right?
Yeah.
To channel in or embody this energy of these characters, but not a lot are really teaching how to get out or remove or let go of that energy.
Yeah.
So when I was in Sedona, I really wanted to play with that. And everybody was so into it, because Sedona is also very spiritual, and everybody's talking about, I mean, they see aliens, they see spirits, they see, you know what I mean? Like, there's no veil in Sedona. So everybody's always wanting to dive into deeper elements of, let's just say, those subtle energies, right? Or the supernatural aspects of what we don't always see directly, the non-tangible. And so we really got to play with that. And so in the class, I would have them do a specific, it was a technique in and of itself, you know, but it was kind of like almost putting them through a little bit of a hypnosis, you know, or a hypnotic meditation in a way. And I would have them, they would get to design and sort of develop their own character. And they would come in, and I would take them through this process, and they got to embody this energy that they had, you know, created. And then they would be able to fully act it out within that time frame, within the circle of everyone else. There were a lot of different personalities, and everyone would interact with those personalities with each other. So there's a lot of very interesting things. I videotaped this. Oh my God, I should go and look at the video. Anyways, so then when we were finished, I took them through a similar process on then how to release that energy and I'm going to say realign with their authentic version, right? So that there's a complete separation between these energies. And it was a really, really fun experience, and they all loved it. At first, everybody was kind of like, oh my God, you want us to do what? And how are we going to do that for so long, you know? And then by the end of it, they were like, that felt like 5 minutes. You know, they felt like they were in this sort of trance, but it was only like 5 minute long, you know, thing. And I was like, no, we were hanging out for like good 45 minutes, you know? So they really got to feel that shift of, you know, to me, I was like, that's getting you in alignment with like who you authentically are, versus being able to play with something that you can bring in and then release and give respect to the energy as the sovereign energy that it is. You know, when we're embodying or channeling these energies, it's like, if it's not authentically you, give it back. It's not yours to own, you know? And I feel like that's maybe where sometimes we get stuck when it becomes a character. It's like, that deserves to go back to the energy from wherever it was created from. You know, it's not meant to be held within or, you know, continued working with, right? And that deserves a certain level of ritual, in a sense. And so, yeah, I don't see a lot of people.
I love that.
I don't see a lot of teachers really teaching that. You know, I've thought about developing, you know,
yeah,
class that would do just that.
Like, I mean, I was thinking that because I mean, I think that's so huge, because I know we're kind of going on a tangent, but this is your life. So this stuff I'm
I
like
love
super
tangents.
interested in. And we have so many questions that we want to ask you, but this is just so interesting because I feel like this is not talked about in the industry of, like how you said, give that energy back. I love that, because I feel like a lot of actors in the industry tend to, they split from themselves. They become split. They don't know who they are. It's almost like they're not really there. And I've met them.
I did.
It, yeah, for sure. Like
I didn't. Half of the reason why I felt like I was so disconnected. Yes, I was suppressing versions of myself, but then, and I got to hide in other characters and develop those other characters. But it really did leave me with a sense of, wait, like, who am I? Like, I need to go find me.
Yeah.
I need to go on this sort of journey. Like, I lost myself. Like I said, I like cheated on myself. I was lost in myself. And that relationship that then I had with myself is what got created in my field to then attract similar types of relationships that then would reflect that to me. So I attracted cheaters and, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that too, about, that relationship that you had with yourself and, how that impacted, the relationship you had with others. But I have like so many questions. There's one, because you talked about your near-death experience and, how it opened you up to the other side. And I know that you talk about that you're very empathic and, you're clairaudient, clairvoyant. Can you talk about that? Do you still receive, do you still get these subtle energies coming in like every day, like talking to
like all the time? Yeah. Like, what does that look like? Is there a party in your living room in the afternoon? Like, what's going on? So it shows up differently for me now than it did when I was first going through that experience, right? So, and I call it now, I sort of reframed, right? Because one of the biggest things for me in sort of rewriting our whole love story for ourselves and with other people is like not replaying the sort of victim side of it, right? So it's very important for me and in what I teach to reframe the story of what happened. So even when I talk about this, near-death experience, we're like, I almost died. Like, I reframed it to the night I took a magic carpet ride, So that night that I took a magic carpet ride and had this whole gnarly Kundalini awakening, it's like we got to reframe it to something positive so that we're not sort of replaying the constant like sob story of what it is, or what it was, excuse me. And so that night, or I should say everything that happened after that, I was like, think of it as being like hypersensitive to everything all at once. Like all the lights in the room got turned on. And so I was hearing things, I was seeing things, I had knowing, I would get dreams, I would get gnarly lucid dreams. That wasn't new for me. I've always been able to sort of get really clear and very lucid sort of astral level projection dreams, if you will. And so they got more intense. They got more specific. And what started happening was I was like, okay, this is all happening at once. And I need to be able to sort of compartmentalize and really understand, what is true, feeling, what is true hearing, what is true knowing, how are all these different, right? How are all these, how can I really tap into each one individually to learn and understand each one in its own respective right? Does that make sense? So that's what I really spent a long time doing. And one of the main reasons why I moved away to Sedona for a little bit, because it's like, okay, I can't figure this out in the middle of LA. I just can't. And it was too heavy and too much energy coming at once. And so now I still get dreams. I get very lucid, vivid dreams. Sometimes they're precog. Sometimes I'll get messages. Sometimes it's like 24 to 48 hours. We had a recent earthquake here and I literally had the dream like a night before. No, I think it was 2 nights before one of these earthquakes happened. And then I woke up and I was like, okay, that was one of those lucid ones. And I get in the car and I turn on the radio, and they were then talking about like, oh, just in case there's an earthquake, do you have your backpack packed? And so was it in the field? Was I tapping into something that was already in the field? Potentially. But I called 3 of my friends. I called my sister and 2 of my friends. And I said, hey, I probably sound nuts, but I care about you guys. Just want to make sure, like, hey, do you have a backpack packed? Because in case anything happens, because I listened to the radio and I had a dream and I probably sound nuts, but I just want to make sure. Right. So I sent it to a couple of my good friends, not thinking anything, not wanting to put any fear energy into it, but just saying, hey, just check yourself if you got it. Right. And then literally that night, it was like midnight, and we had this earthquake, and both of my friends text me, and they were just like, and one of them was like, I'm coming over to your house. Like, what are we doing? Are we escaping LA? Like, is there a bigger one coming? And I was like, I didn't get the full picture in the dream. But I saw that there was an earthquake happening, And so I'll get little precog things like that every once in a while. I do it with my clients all the time. I'll get almost their full storyline of what's happening and things they've been through or the emotions that they've been processing. And that'll be the next client that I have that next day, And so things like that happen. I'll still sense energies around, whether it's in my room or out. I still get that out of the corner of my eye. I see things all the time. And I'll feel them. Some of them, I have conversations with, and some of them I'm like, I understand what they are now. So not everything needs to be explored. You're like, okay, cool. You're an energy that's hanging out. Awesome. If anything sort of needs extra support from me, they will show up in my dream space more than anything. I've had little children come and, that needed support that I was very clear were like energies that had been passed on, children that have been passed on, and they needed a little bit of support, and they would come in my dreams. So usually like my communication is through dreams, which is really connected deeply to the subconscious realm, so it's no wonder why I'm all, geeking out on subconscious stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah. And you're just entering another dimension. Really. It's just it's like, how do you know you're not asleep right now and you're actually awake in your dream?
So can I tell you a quick little story about something that happened in Sedona that like is exactly
I love Sedona, by the way. I felt like a major like spiritual, like we went there, and like I've never felt so much calmness and stillness in my life. I don't know, Jess, have you been to Sedona? It's absolutely amazing. I wanted to go there for our baby moon. I was like, let's go to Sedona. It's so chill here.
Awesome. Yeah. And like, you got to go for at least, if you can, you got to go for at least like 5 days.
Yeah. We were there for, I think like maybe 3 or 4, but what's interesting about it, right? Yeah. Is that, nature has a way, and especially Sedona has a way of bringing out whatever it is that's going on in your internal world. So we were sitting super chill, having a dinner, and right next to us is this couple that looks like they've been married for a really long time, and they're just going at each other, right?
Like fighting, or
well, yeah, they're just very passive aggressive, very mean to each other, and we're just kind of staring at them, like we're and George and I are just kind of like, we're in this really beautiful place, like really enjoying it, just like, wow, this is so amazing, and this couple is just going at it, and we're like, we just kind of observed that, and we were like, man, nature really has a way of bringing things out for you to see.
Oh my God. Well, that is a big thing about the Sedona energy, and because I brought 2 of my girlfriends out there, one time, and I said, look, whatever you're going into Sedona with, it's like a fun house of mirrors, right? So right when you think that you want to turn away from something that you're dealing with, you'll be presented with another mirror. And then when you want to turn away from that mirror, you'll be presented with another one, right? Like it's literally a fun house wheel of mirrors that you can't turn away from your shit, basically.
No, you can't.
And so whatever you go into it, just like mirrors, they will reflect and amplify. So I have seen, exactly like you witnessed, that couple, if that was something they were already dealing with, then they go in thinking that they're going to have this beautiful spiritual experience. And it's like, you get what you need when you go to Sedona, not what you think you want. You know, it's like that typical statement, like you get what you need, right? But like Sedona will amplify that statement.
Oh yeah.
So it will amplify whatever you go into it with. So I love that you say, you're like, oh, so blissful and peaceful, you know, because that means that at the heart of you, you went into it with this bliss and peace. So that's what got amplified.
Yeah, we had such an amazing experience. We were like,
yeah,
this is so wonderful, you know, like it was amazing. We were both just like, we can't wait to go back. George was like, I want to like live there.
But would you say that that was reflective of your guys' relationship too? Kind of like on a day-to-day basis as well?
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, like, and we
all have stuff. We all got, you know.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I mean, we are where we are today, but like, let me tell you, we did not get into our relationship. We got into our relationship with the patterns that we saw growing up and what we knew, which was very toxic. We just both grew out of it and decided, hey, we want to break these generational patterns. We don't need to repeat our parents' stories, you know?
Yes.
We don't need to repeat our grandparents' parents' stories. We want to be better than this.
Exactly. I love that. That was pretty much, I mean, you asked me before, like why and how I got into what I was, you know, what I do now. That's, you know, it's shifting how we're relating to each other and shifting our generational. It's like, I'm like, if these behavioral patterns was coming from my grandmother, like, I don't want to pass that down. You know, like, we got to be able to, like, who's going to be the cycle breaker that's like, hey, I don't want to do what I did in those past relationships. I don't want to hurt by my own projections, right, of my own unhealed stuff. And I don't want to attract somebody who's going to project onto me with their unhealed stuff. So if we both just like own it and heal it and do our best to be committed to like, I don't want to repeat that pattern, then now you get two people going into a relationship with the same level of deeper commitment. You know, we got relationship values and all that stuff that's important, but it's like, what's at the core of your commitment within a relationship? You know, because that's when it turns into a true partnership. And I love that that's what you guys committed to with each other. And so no matter what, you're always going to come back to that foundation. And that's how we're going to shift the world. We don't need, you know, I said something the other day where it's like, we don't need more love. You know, and some people are like, yeah, we do. No, love is always going to be there. Commitment is always going to be there. Like who we are and how we're relating with love is where we all need to be able to grow from, because we all have generational patterns that's learned that's not ours. And if it's not ours, it means that we can say, okay, well, I can unlearn that. I don't have to keep that. I can teach something new and different. I can shift and have like a next level of love. It doesn't have to be this constant, you know, repeat.
Hey listeners, quick interruption to your podcast. For those of you that can't see Svetlana and I right now, we both have coffee mugs in our hand and we are always sipping on our La Repubblica coffee. And you guys can actually enjoy the benefits and the adaptogens and all the beautiful qualities of this coffee as well, because they are actually our partners and our sponsors.
Well, you know, I'm obviously sipping on my La Repubblica coffee right now. I can't do a podcast interview without it. Nothing really works the way that this stuff works. There really is something in this coffee, and I mean it's the mushrooms, it's the reishi that gives you sort of like that zen feel.
I know it's wintertime right now, and if you guys maybe are feeling a little stuffy or feel a little tingle in your throat, this is the perfect elixir that can not only fight a common cold, but it helps your skin glow, your hair grow thicker, and reduces inflammation in your body. Chaga is amazing. And it also contains cordyceps for better performance and increased energy, but not the crash that coffee might give you from a caffeine standpoint.
Combating mom brain and fatigue right now, it's really helping me maintain focus and maintain that sustainability that I need to get on throughout my day, especially with a newborn and running multiple businesses.
You guys are going to love this coffee. Not only does it have the 7 adaptogenic mushroom extracts, but it will certainly transform your morning coffee ritual. And it's really something that you can integrate really easily into your peak performance habits.
I can attest to La Republica's coffee being one of the best elixirs that I've tried thus far, and I have tried several. I never, ever, ever talk about products unless I love them. If you guys are interested, we do have a discount code. It is
vulnerable, all caps 15. So vulnerable 15. Head over to larepublicasuperfoods.com and type in vulnerable 15. When you check out, you will receive a 15% discount on all of La Republica's mushroom coffee. Thanks for listening. Go grab your 15% discount. And now back to our episode.
That's the name of the game for me. I feel like that's what we need, more people relating with each other from a place of love. We don't need more love. Love it's always going to be, it's everywhere. It's in the trees, it's spirit, it's God, it's whatever you want to call it. Like, it's there.
It's just home. It's like find your way back home. But tell us, what was the Sedona story? I feel like I cut you off.
Oh my God. No. That's good. Okay. So what were we talking about? Oh yeah. Different, we're talking
different
about
dimensions and dreams.
Different dimensions.
Like
yes. Okay. So I was in Sedona maybe like a month, I feel like. And I had I packed up all my stuff. Everybody thought I was crazy in Hollywood. They're like, you're going to leave this successful career. I was like, I have to do this. Right. So I literally I found a room to rent. I packed up all my stuff and I went and I got just a regular job, I was like, I don't care. I have to follow, screw the ego at that point, And so I was living in this bedroom with this woman. She was super fun, totally into Led Zeppelin, rock, I was like, we're going to get along great. And so she was at the house one night, right? And I all of a sudden she was like, oh, I'm just going to grab a glass of wine. I'm going to sit and watch some TV. I'm like, cool. And I say to her, I'm like, somehow I'm just really tired. This wave of just exhaustion, literally, I could have closed my eyes and fell asleep standing up. It was a really bizarre energy. And that happened a couple times in Sedona. And whenever that would happen, I would go into this deep dream realm. And in that moment, I went in, and it's I went into this super deep level of my subconscious, and I don't remember what was happening at that point, right? I forgot all of that in the dream realm. But I would feel myself coming back, going through the brainwaves and coming back to my awake state. And my body would start sort of this buzzing feeling as I was waking up. And so I would wake up, and then I would feel myself sort of sit up out of my body. Let me explain it this way. I felt like I was waking up, right? Let me clarify that. And I would feel myself sort of energetically sit up. And then I would go out my bedroom door. I would go down the hall. I would see her sitting on the couch. I'd be like, hey, I'm going to go out. And she's like, cool, see you later. And then immediately, I don't remember where I would go when I would go out the door, right? And I would go smack back into my body again, right? So this was initially my energy body floating out, me going through different dimensional realities is what it really was, right? And then when I would go outside the door, I would not remember where I was going. And then I would smack back into my body. And that's when I would fully awake. Have you ever had that moment where you feel like your body jolts and you wake up?
Yeah. It's been happening.
It would be
a lot more frequently lately. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Or that's usually around the time. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. Between that and sleep paralysis, I would get those two things a lot. So I would sort of hit.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to chime in and say that I've had sleep paralysis a few years ago, and it sounds very similar to your experience. It was this jolt of, whoa, what? And then you would really wake up, and it was a totally different, it was a totally different world that you were living in that part of the paralysis. Lord knows how long that is for your actual body to be in. Correct. And then all of a sudden you're in the what we call, quote unquote, the real conscious world. And it's a totally different feeling.
Correct. And so this happened to me five times within that. However, it was I think a 2-hour time period. and I was going to different dimensional levels. Because every time I would go out my bedroom door, the walls would be a different color. She would be wearing a different color, but it was the same sequence every time, right? So I would hit back into my body would jolt, I would technically wake up, right? And my body would be that buzzing and kind of aching in a weird way, but still so tired. It wasn't full sleep paralysis, but oh my God, it felt like a brick. Like I couldn't move. It felt like I was so heavy. And so then I would literally fall back asleep again, and I would go back into lucid, repeat the same pattern, where then I would act like energetically, I would wake up and sit up out of my body. I would go out my bedroom door. I would see the hallway. Now it's a different color again. I'd look down the hallway. She's there. She's wearing different color outfits. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go out. And she'd wave. Cool. Peace out. Go out the front door. And then I don't remember again what happened when I went out the door until I then smacked back into my body again. So that happened, like I said, 5 different times. And the very last time, everything was white. Like the very last time that I energetically sat up and I walked out, and like the picture on the wall was white. The walls were already, now they were like amplified white. I looked down the hallway. She's wearing all white, right? I walked out the door one more time, you know? And so then that very last time when I jolted back into my body and I woke up, right, in this sort of real dimensional reality. And I was like, and my body was aching. It literally felt like I put myself through a marathon. And I was like, Serah, you got to like, just fully get up. Like, don't do this again. You know what I mean? Like you got to stop at some point. But it was happening sort of on like I wasn't as if I was doing it on purpose. It just kept happening. You know, it was like a Groundhog's Day lucid dream or something. The trippy thing is I stopped myself. I was like, okay, I looked at my phone and I was like, you've been doing this for 2 hours. Okay. You've had a 2-hour nap, get up. But I was still that super heavy, super exhausted feeling. I was sort of disoriented because now I didn't really know. I was like, what just happened? I just did this 5 times. Am I doing this again in the sleep realm, or am I in this reality? Like, what reality am I in? I walked out for real this time, right? Physically down the hall. She's still sitting on the couch. I walked to the end of the hall. She looked at me so weird. She was like, what are you do? She was like so confused. She's like, what are you doing here? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you left. I thought you left. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been taking a nap for 2 hours in my bedroom. And she was like, no, I saw you walk down the hall and you walked out the front door. She's like, I even went out because I didn't hear your car. I figured a friend picked you up or something like that. I didn't hear your car. I walked out and I looked out the window and your car was still sitting there. I didn't know where you went. And then I told her the whole story and she was like, that's trippy. She's like, I for sure just saw one of your energy bodies in whichever one of those dimensions you did it in, walk down the hall, out the living room, and out the front door.
Oh my God. I have
goosebumps. She
goosebumps.
watched me do it. And then literally I was so tripped out at that moment. I called one of the people that I knew at the time in Sedona. And I was like, I'm not even kidding you. This is what I said. I was like, this might sound crazy, right? But not to the people I knew in Sedona, because we were all having just super woo-woo conversations, right? I did a lot of weird shit. And so I called this person and I said, okay, tell me what dimension I'm calling you in. And they just, it sounds nuts. It totally does. I'm not even kidding. And they started cracking up too. They were like, Serah, you're here. And I'm like, no, don't tell me that, because I don't know where here is right now. Can you tell me where is here? What dimension am I calling? What dimension are you in that I'm calling you in? He's like, do you want me to come over so that you can know that I'm here? I'm like, yes, please. So, like, do you need something tangible? So that it just, you know, we have unlimited dimensional realities that are accessible to all of us. You don't have to go to Sedona for this, but you know, it is kind of like its own little planet. It does help. There's not a lot of interference in Sedona, right? So those things can happen a little bit more often.
Yeah, I want to like, I love that you kind of can differentiate this like unconscious, subconscious, conscious lifestyle, and it becomes really clear in certain places. Maybe for somebody else, it's like they go to, San Francisco and they might feel that way. So it might be in different places for different people too. But I want to kind of transition into, you help women kind of break through some of those barriers. And I was watching one of the videos where you were talking about how, and it might not just be women, it might be everyone, right? Like that we unconsciously create shame for ourselves in some of our flaws. And you talk about being conscious in relationships, but also, going deep, doing the work. But how can maybe women or people that you work with in relationships unconsciously create that drama or create that shame in their flaws? And how do you navigate overcoming that? So I wanted to kind of dive into maybe even just shame as a topic and how that affects relationships.
Yeah. I mean, we can create shame out of so many different things on a conscious level or a subconscious level, right? So when we're wanting to go into, because it would be different for someone who, let's say, is single, right? And dealing with shame, and whatever reason they have that shame, that could be like, I'll give a personal example. I had shame for a long time. I'm like, how could I be so stupid to keep attracting more toxic relationship? You know what I mean? Like I had a big piece of shame around that. And feeling like there was something wrong with me, like I didn't get it, or, and I would pick on myself and beat up on myself for like, how could I be so stupid to not be smart? Like, I'm a smart girl. Like I should be able to, to figure this one out. Why does this keep happening? And so if we're unconsciously, I wouldn't say that we're unconsciously creating shame, right? But if we're not aware of how we are, our patterns of relating, then we will unconsciously attract that lesson to be reflective to us. So I take on the stance and the sort of personal power position that I am the creator of anything that's happening outside of me. And that can sometimes trigger because we have such a, like we want to point the finger out and be like, oh, it's their fault. They're an asshole. Right? And as much as that is, as much as I'm sure there's so many people who are like, I totally attracted an asshole, right? I attracted lots of them. But I had to look at, okay, wait a second. How have I been an asshole to myself? Right? I wasn't treating myself well. I wasn't treating my body well. I wasn't valuing who I am as a woman, as a powerful woman. I didn't even think I was a powerful woman, right? I wasn't good enough for anything. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough. And I had dealt with a grandmother who would constantly tell me at 13 that nothing was ever good enough, right? So if that's how I was unconsciously associating to myself, that's what I took on that belief. I agreed with her when she was communicating that to me. And I didn't know that at the time, right? I didn't have that awareness at the time. None of us do until we do, right? And so if I didn't have that awareness at the time, then that's how I went on to treat myself. And so I say something like I cheated on myself, right? Like I wasn't being good to myself. I wasn't being a good friend. I wasn't in a good, healthy relationship with me. And I'm the only one who can take responsibility for that. I can't blame that on anybody else. And talk about shame. I did have a shame for a really long time about that. Like I kicked myself for the longest time for honestly doing so many fucking drugs and drinking and just like not being a good person to my body or myself. I kicked myself for a really long time on like, wow, Serah, you almost fucking died. Good job. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it took me a long time to forgive myself for almost killing myself because I couldn't blame it on anybody. As much as my grandmother may have treated me a certain way, as much as I attracted whatever asshole, I couldn't blame it on them anymore because I wasn't treating myself any better than they were treating me, than I allowed them to treat me. I agreed with her, so I let everybody else treat me that way because I was doing it to myself. Right? So that's where I had to shift for myself because my shame was within that. And when I realized I don't want to do that anymore, I need to recommit to my relationship to me. When I reestablished that relationship is when all of my other relationships changed. Because no longer was I allowing anything to, or anyone, to treat me worse than I ever treated me. Right? Or let me say it this way. I started treating myself with the value and the respect and the love that I then had to learn that I deserved. I had to forgive myself to learn that I deserved it. And then once I learned that I deserved it, then I had to go in and actually treat myself that way. And if I'm the one that sets the tone, my relationship, it starts with me and everybody else is a reflection of that. Then if I'm attracting someone into my life that is treating me less than how I truly believe that I deserve, then it must mean on some level, I'm not being that good of a relationship to me, right? Which is why I say I was cheating on me. So I attracted somebody who would cheat on me because it's in my field.
Yeah, it's almost like you get what you tolerate. You know, you're tolerating that behavior in yourself, and so you're attracting it in other people. And I think too, it's Svetlana and I are both really big fans of Alison Armstrong, and she says, you know, I love her so much, and she says women turn frogs into princes, and it just kind of reminded me of you saying that, because you're saying it's not happening, you know, to you, it's happening for you, because you had to come to the realization that you were tolerating this, you were letting those types of people come into your life, and you were allowing it, wasn't them.
And I like that you say that about how she's like, oh yeah, you turn frogs into princes, right? What I had to remember, which was my greatest lesson, right? Because I'm sure so many women will relate to this, right? I know you ladies will as well, right? But that, like we all want the bad boy, right?
That's
like the sexual appeal, right?
Literally, that's who George was in the beginning. Like, that's what I wanted. Right. I was like, I want the bad boy. And then you realize you're like, fuck the bad boy. I want a man to treat me like a queen, you know?
Yes. So then you're like, okay, I want the guy who's like heart-centered, right? Like got a heart of gold. So then you say, okay, well, yeah, but I still love that like sexiness about the bad guy or the bad boy, right? Because sometimes like, okay, if he's sweet, then we get into the realm of like, oh, well, he's the good guy and good guys finish last or whatever, right? That whole storyline.
Yeah.
So there's this like paradox between the two. So I'm always like, okay, yeah, women say we want the bad boy, but we want the bad boy with the heart of gold. The problem with that is then she'll attract a bad boy. I've done this, full transparency. She'll attract the bad boy hoping she can turn his heart to gold.
Yeah.
And that's not a woman's job. That's a man's job to do for himself. If he doesn't have the heart of gold, no woman is going to help his heart turn gold, right? It's like he's got to do that for himself. But we've got this belief system, right? That's like, oh, I want the bad boy with the heart of gold. So I'll just find a bad boy and I'll just change him and shift him and I'll make him a heart of gold, you know? And that doesn't, no, you just end up, that's like the recipe for finding another bad boy toxic relationship. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know people that will say exactly what you're saying. They want the bad boy, and they want the bad boy to treat them well. And they get the bad boy, but they can't get them to treat them well. And I mean, what I realized is just from personal experience, it's something just about like, you can have a really great, amazing guy that is just sweet and heart-centered, like you said. And he's the fucking bad boy in bed.
There you go, girl. I'm so glad you just dropped that bomb right now, because that is exactly.
He's the bad boy in bed where you're just like, take me.
But that's what we're saying that we really want. But the only way that a man is going to be able to do that or be that version is if he's in alignment with his purpose.
Yeah. I mean,
if he's not passionate about something, like, he cannot ravage you. Let's just be real. If he doesn't know who he is and his balance of masculine and feminine with it, right? And that understanding, like, it's not going to happen. But we have to be able to have that within ourselves in order to attract that in them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like since we're on the topic of sex, and I mean, let's just get into it.
Girl, it's a Tuesday.
I mean, I feel like, so I've only been with George. He's my only partner.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't have like this whole like wide array of like, oh, what's like I've tried like all the different flavors or whatever, but that was my personal choice, and like No,
you found a key that fit. You found
exactly.
a flavor that was like, okay, this is like good on him. He's
totally,
like,
and
I got this.
I own the choice. You know what I mean? I wanted that. I called that in.
Yeah.
I owned that. And I found my soulmate partner, and it was exactly what I wanted. I got the bad boy in the beginning that was like mostly the bad boy that needed to change or whatever, that understood that himself down the line.
That's the difference.
But I love how it's like, when you meet him, you're like, oh my God, he's so sweet. He's such a teddy bear and everything like that. But you get like a whole different version at home. And when it comes to like the sex life, it's like, oh, you think you've got... It's totally different.
Are you guys going to have a conversation tonight? Like, baby, why are you talking about our sex life on your podcast?
Oh man, he's going to be like, yeah, thanks for sharing that with the whole world.
But we think he's a rock star. So, like there ain't no shame in that. That's awesome.
So you talk about, I think you talk about sacred sex. I'm pretty sure like you talk about that. I've heard.
Yeah,
that
I did. I started when I was first making YouTube videos. They're still up on my channel. I was editing like this whole conversation with my friends. I wanted to get so many different perspectives, and I kind of intercut it with street interviews. Like I would ask random people on the street what they thought about like conscious love and sacred sexuality, So those videos are still up on my YouTube channel. Yeah, they're a couple years old, but yeah.
I mean, does that still apply? I mean, just since we've talked so much about energy too, right? Because I know you take on the energy, of the person that you're with too, right? Like when you have sex with somebody, I know so many people that have had many, many sexual partners, and they would, especially, it's interesting. I feel like one of my Scorpio friends who's like very empathic and like, she's an amazing person. And she has just like, I know that she can like easily take on like that energy of like the guy that she's with. It's like he leaves something within her field. And when she's done. Exactly. Yeah. So like, can you talk about that? Cause just for listeners, people that maybe are involved with like many sexual partners, no shame, right? Like totally cool.
No shame.
No shame
Absolutely.
at all.
Like,
I'm like, do you, like, if you want to explore whatever, what's it called? Yeah, just so maybe they can get an understanding of what that is. And like, maybe if they have these sort of experiences, like what they can do and how to like shift that, or, just kind of how to manage that. I'm
Absolutely.
sure you talk about this with clients too.
I do when, because usually a lot of my clients either are single so if they're single and they want to sort of prepare for the next relationship, right? Kind of reprogramming their old story, their old love story, right? And really setting themselves up powerfully to call in that, divine partnership. Or if they are in a partnership, that's where it kind of is a little bit different because they've been sexual with one person for a long time, right? I'll say the majority of my clients are monogamous. I don't have a lot of clients that are either, I should say, polyamorous or, having sex with multiple partners. Not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just usually the women, if they are single, they're like, I'm working on me. Like I'm self-loving right now. I'm not trying to have sex. I'm not trying to, you know what I mean? Like totally. I need to like tap in and find my divine feminine again, and then I'll be ready for all that, right? So that's just where they're at in their life. That being said, I do feel, and this is just from what I've experienced myself, what I've seen. I have had conversations with other people who do resonate with this, so I'm going to kind of preface it with like, hey, whatever you resonate with is cool. Anytime anybody's sort of challenged me on it, it's usually been men who just want to be able to like have multiple sexual partners and not really take the energetic responsibility. So that's kind of the only time that anybody's really challenged me on this particular topic. That being said, I am a believer that yes, we are all energetically intuitive to the energy of our partner, as well as the energy of the partners they've been with previous. Right? So can it release over time? Absolutely. Women, it's really like every month we're releasing energetically and physically, right? Our moon cycle will release the energy sexually from partners. I've said that it usually takes 3 moon, I call, our menstrual cycle moon cycle, right? That it would usually take 3 months, 3 moon cycles to sort of fully release the energy of one partner naturally. If you're not going through that process of 3 months, you can do, there's many Reiki healers that will do this, that will actually remove or release the energetic fields around those chakras. I've had it done. I've done it on myself, right? So that's a way that you can kind of do it in between. Like if you weren't going the full 3 months, then doing it naturally. For men, like women run on a moon cycle and men run on a sun cycle, right? So however you want to do it, it's like, take the energetic responsibility of whenever you want to align with a partner, like you want the utmost of integrity to bring those 2 people in alignment, right? Or to be of the utmost integrity when those 2 people align, right? It's kind of like, would you want to get into a relationship with someone if they were still in an emotional or even physical relationship with someone else, right? That would technically, some people would call that cheating, right? Some people are okay with that. But if we're looking at the energetics of it, it's like, release the energy of the previous partner, so that way when you step in to a new relationship, like you don't have any ties with them. It's kind of like going into another relationship and you're still emotionally pining after someone else. It's like, finish that, release that, close that door, so that when you step into something with someone new, it's all about you guys. There's no other interference. We get like, let's just be real. It's hard enough going into a new relationship and bringing the energy of all the past fears, the past programs, that's hard enough going into that. That's the other reason why doing that subconscious work on shifting those patterns and those programs, so that you can go in with full integrity and as your own, like, fully authentic version of you, that's not influenced by the past experience, that's not influenced by past, fears or, all those toxic relationships in the past. Like, you know what I mean? You don't want to bring that in when we do that. I've done it. We've all done it. It's like, you do it before you know better, but that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about teaching these things, so that we can be able to, again, relate to each other on a deeper level and how we're relating with each other. If you go into a relationship, or, if you're getting into a relationship with someone and they're bringing all their past baggage, like, is that fun? Like, nobody wants to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's like coming in with 10 suitcases into their home, Yeah. And you just start unloading your junk, or not even suitcases. Let's just say it's like coming in with like 10 trash bags and into someone's home and being like, here I am.
And we've all been through experience. So again, we're not putting any shame on what we've been through
totally
in the past.
Not.
But that's the difference of like, hey, do you like, that's heavy. That's a lot of bags. And if you don't want to get into a relationship with somebody and their baggage, because you don't want them to project their stuff onto you, then it's like, okay, well, how are we all stepping up to that next level when we're loving with each other and when we're relating with each other, right? Because if I don't want somebody else to have, bags when entering in with me, or I would hope that they would do the best to work on that for themselves, then that means I got to be able to do that as well in order to attract that type of partner. like you attract what you are, right? Or like you get what you give kind of thing. So if I want a divine partnership that is like ready for next level love, well, who do I have to become then? What level am I going to get myself to so that then I can have that? Because it's possible. It's 1,000% possible.
Yeah, and men typically want to understand problems and solve problems, but if you bring so many bags into a relationship that's new, it's very overwhelming, because even though that's something where men typically are like, yes, there's a problem, I'm going to solve this, I'm going to help you, you're still bringing in your old energy and the energy of other partners into a new, fresh relationship, and you're not necessarily leaving room for anything new to grow in that place. So it will just start.
Exactly.
It'll start with problems.
100%. That's exactly it. Like, wouldn't we rather be the sum of, like, if we both come in whole and complete and then we get to like build from there, right? Versus like trying to work through the old stuff. And it's kind of like, there's always going to be something that's going to come up. Right? Your old patterns are totally going to come up. Even when you got the tools, like that's when you get to put those tools into practice, right? So when you learn the tools, when you can get that foundational stuff that then you can get and bring into how you're relating in a relationship, right? They're totally going to come up. But which one sounds better? Having the tools so that you can use when that situation comes up. So then you're not judging the other person. They're not judging you. You're just like, okay, hey, my shit's kind of coming up. And then you get to talk about it in this really cool, just like authentic way. And you're not judging each other. There's no triggers. You're like, hey, this might sound really weird, but like, this is kind of coming up for me. And then you get to just have a different level of conscious communication about something. And you might even be able to laugh at it. You know, it's like, it's a different level of respect, you know?
Yeah, I love that you bring that up, because I feel like that's the place where I'm at right now as in my relationship, where we could just be like, hey, like, this is what's bothering me right now. This is what's triggering me, because I mean, nobody's perfect, right? We're always learning, growing, and evolving, and especially being in this place of like postpartum right now, like there's just a lot of shit rebalancing. And I'm always yeah, dude. And I'm always transparent and like honest. It's like everything that I've learned over the last, like, you know, over 5 years now of self-development, growth, evolving, everything, it's really being put to the test right now.
Awesome.
Where it's like, all right, you like, really got to take the tools and use them. And it's, I don't like to use the word hard, but it can be. It's like, fuck, because you really want to go into victim. And sometimes it's okay to be there for a little bit. It's as long as you don't like bring your sleeping, start moving in there with your, and start like building a home in that space. Right. And, so I love that you brought that up. And I know that like you have like with everything that you teach on conscious relationships, I remember like reading about and what you talked about, like your program that's called HER, HER. And there's also, I know that you talk a lot about the masculine and the feminine. And like when you brought up the sun and the moon, I was like, oh, this is something interesting to get into right now. Because the moon is feminine and the sun is masculine.
Totally.
I love that you use that like energetic component of like, this is how we release. Can you get into that?
Hey guys, it's Jessica. I hope you enjoyed session 1 of our episode with Serah, and we will be back on our next recording with Serah for our second session, and we will dive deep into her love coaching business and how you can help your own relationships. Stay tuned, and as always, stay bold and vulnerable.
For anybody that wants to follow Serah on Instagram, it is, I just want to make sure I'm spelling it correctly. It is SerahDlaine. So at Serah D'Laine on Instagram, and we'll make sure to link that in the show notes.
We also want to give a shout out to Ian and Mark, the founders of La Repubblica Coffee. Not only have they been so amazing to work with, but they're authentic, and I really see big things happening for the company just because of their transparency, their integrity with ingredients, and giving a great product.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it really is this wonderful, elixir of these adaptogenic herbs that Jess mentioned. If you guys are interested, we do have a discount code. It is
vulnerable, all caps 15. So vulnerable 15. Head over to larepublicasuperfoods.com and type in vulnerable 15. When you check out, you will receive a 15% discount on all of La Republica's mushroom coffee. I love their coffee. It's tasty, but it's also quality. Thank you for listening to the Bold and Vulnerable podcast. For more information on today's speaker, please visit us at boldandvulnerablepodcast.com.
And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Let's keep spreading the love by being bold and vulnerable. Thank you. We love you.